Mr. Shapps, you were here, of course, to talk to us about defence, one of the potentially the biggest things of the election campaign, which I'm obviously very keen to do. But first, just to address the YouGov MRP poll that we've been talking about today, projecting Keir Starmer winning the biggest Labour majority for 100 years, seats including your own in Welling and Hatfield. What's your response to that?
Well, first of all, I'd say, I always accept that my seat is at risk. I've always thought of it as being marginal. I always fight for every single vote. The second thing I'd say is it's all really interesting seeing large polls. It was actually an actual vote in my constituency within the last month. And in that, had that been a general election, I most likely would have won that vote. So I think kind of probably put more stock in people going out to vote than an opinion poll taken across the country and then projected here. And when I talk to people on the doorstep, the reason is clear. People recognise that we've actually got a plan for the country, that we're actually executing that plan, that it's not always easy, that it's been a tough few years with the pandemic or in Europe, and that actually what Keir Starmer does is snipes from the sidelines. I can't think of a single thing he's actually said in this election campaign, possibly with the exception of today, when he's claiming again he can be trusted on defence, when his own deputy shadow prime minister tonight has come out, Angela Rayner, and said she hasn't changed her mind about this. His own shadow foreign secretary, David Lammy, has voted against Trident in the past. You cannot trust Labour on defence. We're coming up with the big, bold ideas, and I'm really happy to leave it to the electorate in still over 30 days' time to decide rather than relying on opinion polls.
I'm very keen to talk to you about defence, as I said, including on your opinion on the Labour Party's plans. But look, there is one other thing that we do have to address. And I have to say, fair play to you for coming on the programme this evening. I take your hat off because when we originally launched the YouGov MRP projection on Sky News, you called our Deputy Political Editor, Sam Coates, when he was on air. I just want to play to you what happened so that you can respond to it.
Hello, Grant Shapps. You're live on Sky News. I'm in the studio with Sophy Ridge. Have you just seen that you're about to lose your seat according to the Sky News YouGov projection? He just put the phone down on me.
Right, it's your chance to clear up what happened. Did you know that he was on air at the time?
Putting aside what Ofcom would say about doing that, I hadn't realised Sky had turned in some sort of Michael Mcintyre big show and was putting people straight through on air. I was actually coming on this evening, and so I knew I was coming on this evening. I thought we'd have a chat about the programme, but there I was suddenly presented with the opportunity to go live on air. Wasn't not entirely the plan, but I was pleased to come on anyway. And as I say, when it comes to polls, I've been presented with these for years and years, and not to sound too much like a politician, the only poll that matters is the one on election day. And given that I've seen an election poll within the last 30 days in my own seat, I think that's probably worth considering a bit more than an opinion poll across the country.
Well, look, fair play. This is your chance to be live on Sky News at a time of your choosing. So there you go.
I think next time if I'm on a broadcast, perhaps with another broadcaster, and I see that it's Sam Coates calling, I might put him on live on the BBC.
I'll see what his reaction is to that later. He's probably kind of slightly concerned about that.
After I've consulted with Ofcom about whether that is appropriate.
Right, let's talk defence, shall we? This is why you're here today. Keir Starmer has promised a nuclear triple lock to protect Trident. What's your reaction to what he's had to say?
Well, I think it's extraordinary that Keir Starmer can claim that he is the party or the leader who would support Trident. He's got 12 members of his own front bench team who voted against Trident when they had the opportunity. He's got 4 members in his shadow cabinet, including his shadow Foreign Secretary, his shadow Deputy Prime Minister, who voted against Trident. He won't commit the money to 2.5% of defence spending, of GDP on defence spending. So why should we believe him when he will not do those things, and when his team, and even the shadow Deputy Prime Minister tonight, comes out and says she hasn't changed her mind about Trident? I simply don't think that's a basis for protecting this country. I think it would be dangerous for this country, frankly. And I don't believe that no matter how many times he says it, it makes it true when half the people behind him seemingly do not support his policy.
So just to come back to you on that, you mentioning Angela Rayner there in the interview that she gave. Just look at what she said in full, because she said, I haven't changed my mind, as you point out, but then she does say the vote that we had some years ago mentioned nothing about multilateral disarmament, and that's what I feel is very important for the long term. And she does say in the same interview that she believes in Trident. And I guess the other thing to say as well is, you're talking about Labour MPs who voted against Trident 8 years ago. Is it not fair to say that the world has changed in those 8 years? Russia's invaded Ukraine, there's been 119 extra nuclear missile tests in North Korea. Someone may, fair enough, have said, you know what, I thought we were okay back then, and now I've changed my mind. The world is a more dangerous place.
I just don't buy any of that. When it comes to something as serious as your nuclear deterrent, you can't have a situation where sometimes you're in favour when there's an election, but other times you're not in favour when you're actually asked to vote in the House of Commons. And the last time it was voted on, up to 50 Labour MPs at the time voted against. There are 4 very prominent members in the shadow cabinet and 12 in the shadow front bench. I don't buy this idea that the world is more dangerous now, so we needed nuclear deterrent now, but we somehow didn't need it before. Presumably, that means that it can be on or off on different days. The nuclear deterrent doesn't work like that. You have to be prepared to back it. This is something that takes decades to maintain. We have had nuclear subs at sea every single day for the last 54 years. That wouldn't be possible if you have parliamentarians and members of the cabinet into those kind of senior positions who vote against it and don't think it could be there. It damages the very credibility of your nuclear deterrent. So I think it's incredible in the true sense of the word, not just because he has a number of people, including his deputy prime minister, shadow prime minister, and deputy foreign minister, not just because of them, but because he won't put the money into sustaining it either. And there's a lack of precision, lack of ability to do 2.5% of GDP on defence means that they would have difficulty running nuclear deterrent as well in the years ahead. So I think for all of those reasons, it's incredible for them to suddenly claim they're in favour just because it happens to be near an election.
I want to talk to you a bit about Nigel Farage, because this is the other big story today. Nigel Farage announcing that he is going to take over as a leader of Reform UK, and he's also going to stand for them as a candidate in the Clacton constituency election. Are you worried about the impact that Reform UK is already having on the Conservative Party and could actually have even more with Nigel Farage as leader?
Well, look, the first thing I'd say is if you believe in sorting out some of the problems in this country, including and particularly something that Reform talk about a lot, which is the small boats, then surely preventing the guy who wants to scrap the Rwanda scheme, who doesn't believe in actually controlling that illegal immigration across the channel, and that is, of course, Keir Starmer. He's voted against our plans 136 times. Doing anything which essentially gets him in, or gets him in and gets him a bigger majority, surely is bad for the very thing that you started believing in. So a vote for Reform, very simply, is a vote for Starmer. And I don't believe that's sensible. I don't think it's what the country really wants. I think in reality, it would mean that people's goals of stopping illegal migration, for example, but also many other areas, including in the defence of the realm that we were just talking about, would be significantly damaged. And that's why we'll be fighting for that.
Can I squeeze in one last question while I've got you? I'm slightly fascinated by this because, like Nigel Farage was at Conservative conference, of course. He's now saying that he's going to spend the next 5 years campaigning against the Conservative Party. I mean, why do you think he kind of hates you guys so much? What's going on?
Well, look, it's for other people to answer for themselves. I don't try and answer for other party leaders. We have a very clear plan for this country. We have a very bold set of initiatives. In fact, I think anyone looking at this election fairly would say we're the ones who are coming up, generating the new ideas. And we've talked about the security that we want to create in this country. All of that is at risk, with the only other possible outcome from this election. You're either going to have Rishi Sunak in number 10, or you're going to have Keir Starmer. It's a fantasy to imagine that we're going to end up with any other outcome other than Keir Starmer being handed more power to do things that you really don't want him to do with this country. So I think it's very, very important to be incredibly clear about the impact of thinking that a vote for reform is anything other than a vote for Keir Starmer.
Grant Shapps, Defence Secretary, thank you very much indeed for being on the programme tonight.